detected.
What's going on, everybody? Phoenix Gaming here. Thank you for stopping by, and today we are going to be doing something a little different. Now, it is coming up to the holiday season, and that means there's going to be a lot more agents getting the Division 2, going into it, and trying to figure out what are the best of slot items, what weapons to use, what gear to use. So over the next couple of weeks, including covering new games as well that are about to be coming out. We're going to be going over what the best type of weapons are to use in the Division 2. And today we're going to be going over the SMG variants. So now these are not to say that these are the only SMGs that you should use. You use whatever you like, but these are what I personally find more effective and efficient when running a SMG build or when running it through the Division 2 to kind of give it a variety. So if you find this content informative and you like it, definitely hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and you can always hit me up on my Twitter. My handle's down in the left hand corner of the screen. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So the first SMG that we're going to go over is the MP5. Now the MP5 is a very Tom Clancy-esque type SMG. Now I say Tom Clancy-esque because you'll find the MP5 in a variety of Tom Clancy games, ranging from Ghost Recon to Rainbow Six to The Division to anything related to Ubisoft in the realm of reality and realism with Tom Clancy. So now with the MP5, it has an RPM of 800 and a mag, of which you can extend to 52. And then for all SMGs, you're going to want to try and go for max rolls, of course, where you're going to want to try and get that max SMG damage, try and get that max critical hit chance to 21%. And then my personal attribute I recommend you guys trying to roll is 10% damage to target out of cover. Now for the talents are all going to be based on what you're going to want to run. Now with this specific MP5, I have close and personal. Now I modified it to roll 10% damage to target out of cover, but depending on the build that you want or going to be running, you're going to want to try and find a way to synergize your talent with the build that you're running. So currently the build that I have right now is a armor regen build. So with this build specifically, you would want to use something like preservation. So that is just one talent that you would run, say, with this armor regen build is preservation. Now as you can see, with the preservation, you get your killing an enemy repairs 10% armor over 5 seconds. Headshot kills improve the repair by an additional 10%. So it's all about how well you're going to synergize your build. Now you could definitely run something like close and personal, because with an SMG, you're going to see that the accuracy is very low, but your stability is really high, but your damage drop off is around, let's say, 25 to 30 meters. So you're going to want to bridge that gap with something stronger. But again, it is all about how you're going to synergize your build, how you're going to be able to use your SMG efficiently and effectively. Now, SMGs in general are a very good weapon to use, especially if you're beginning, especially if you play aggressively, especially if you want to get up close and personal. But you can only use them in a variety of instances, in a variety of content, because you're not going to take an SMG and run a legendary stronghold, because the legendary stronghold is scaled beyond a solo player's ability. But you can effectively use an SMG to solo heroic content for like control points, missions, because you're, especially if you're running with a shield and you want to be up in the NPC's face, you're going to want to use an SMG, especially if that's how you like to play. So that's the MP5. Again, that is the first SMG on the list that I would recommend for anyone to use and anyone to get a feel for. So now let's get into the second one. So the second one that we have is going to be the P90. Now the P90 is a high RPM, but with a lower damage variant. I personally like the P90, but the P90 does have a drawback, because as you can see with the P90, and this is Emmeline's Guard, this is a named P90, but this goes without say for all the other P90 variants in the game, with the exception of the Chatterbox, which is an exotic, but we're not getting to the exotics right now. But with the P90 in general, you only have 2 mod slots, so you're significantly dropping any other type of mod slots for to use in order to gain like crit damage or crit chance. But the thing with the P90 is, you have your high rate of fire, you also have a high magazine in which you don't need to use a mod slot for. The P90 is a very good weapon to use. It's very fun to use. The reload speed of it is actually very efficient, especially when you're able to, empty out your mag, reload in less than a second, and then continue firing. Especially if you have something like fast hands with the P90, you'll be able to constantly output DPS faster than you'll be able to reload. Again, the accuracy is a little higher than, let's say, the MP5, but your stability is good, and then your damage drop off is, you know, a little bit behind, but it's not too noticeable. So the next SMG that I would recommend that you use is the AUG. Now there's two different types of AUGs. This variant is the A3 Para XS. Its RPM is a 725, but it does deal more damage than, let's say, the MP5 or the P90. And again, with the core attributes, you know, you're trying to max it all out, and your talents, it's all going to be about how you're synergized, but the accuracy of the AUG is going to be higher than the P90, definitely higher than the MP5 in general. The damage drop off is a little further, but it's going to drop off significantly if you're especially running from, let's say, 40 meters. So as you can see, at the 40 meter mark, it's going to drop off pretty hard. It's almost at a vertical, but you know, you're still going to be able to deal a lot more damage than if you were with the P90 or MP5. But again, your RPMs are a little on the low side, so you got to keep that in mind when you are running the AUG itself. Next, my personal favorite is the Banshee, the CMMG. Now with this, you've got a good total damage, and then you also have a very high rate of fire, and then you can also get a good magazine size. The CMMG Banshee came out with Warlords of New York. This is with the Lady Death variant exotic SMG. I personally really like using the CMMG Banshee. Its accuracy is still about the same as with the MP5, but you have a better stability, and then the damage drop off is also around the same as the MP5 as well. And then lastly, for your SMGs is the Vector. Now the Vector has a very high RPM, 1200 RPM, so you're constantly dealing DPS faster. And then let's say if you add fast hands to your Vector, you're going to be dealing a lot more DPS in the long term rather than in the short term. The accuracy of it, though, is very low. The stability is very high of it, especially when you're using a shield. So using the Vector is probably a very safe bet for beginners that are trying to figure out what SMG to use. I really like it, especially when you pair it with your build, especially if it's like a DPS build or this armor regen build that I am currently using. But I do recommend that you try and find a good Vector SBR and try and use it. Go throughout the different missions, try and use it throughout heroic control points, try and use it just in regular gameplay, and you'll find that with your Vector, you'll get accustomed to it, you'll be able to use it. But again, with the damage drop off, and as you can see, it's a little lower, so I'll probably say around 25 to 28 meters. You're gonna need to be very close to your enemy in order to make it as effective as possible. So those are the 5 SMGs I highly recommend you try and aim for, you can try and grind for and max out and get those complete rolls. I went ahead and crafted the Vector because I wasn't getting lucky enough and RNG wasn't in my favor when the Vectors were dropping. So I went ahead and crafted it, got the damage to armor, but you just want to make sure that you're maxed out on your attributes. The best way to max out your attributes is to run the summit on legendary, set your targeted loot to SMGs, because that's going to be the best way to farm for your specific weapons in general. Control points are also a good one, but again, control points are very random, especially when it is the SMG variant, especially when it is on heroic. So now I said that there was only 5 SMGs, but I wanted to bring attention to 2 specific SMGs that aren't really talked about, that have a good damage and that have good rates of fire, because they're all in their own specific categories. They're not in any class. They're very unique for each other individually. So the first one I want to go over is the M1928 Thompson. Now these are very specific. I like them because they're very mafia-esque. They are very unique to each other, and again, they're in their own category when it comes to the SMG. So with the M1928 Thompson, the inscription, we've got "Wars are won by the living, don't be the loser, son." And these two SMGs I'm going to be talking about are related to the Mafia in general, and they're very good to use. With the Thompson, I have, like, my total damage is 137k. That outperforms a lot of the SMGs that we do have. The problem with this, though, is that the RPM is down at a 600 RPM, and then that we have a mag of 50. But you are constantly dealing high DPS, especially if you are running a maxed out like I have here. I do have preservation modified on it for my armor regen build, and then the accuracy is very good, and so is the stability. Damage drop off is around 30, so around the same for how an SMG should be, but you only have one mod, and what that mod is gonna be your magazine. So this one I highly recommend that you try and grind for. Try and get these Thompson variances, because they are very good, especially if you know how to use them. And then the next SMG that I want to bring attention to is the Tommy gun. With the Tommy gun, it's specific to itself, because it's in its own little category with an RPM of 800, and you're still doing well over 100,000 total damage with it as well. It's got a mag of 50, and then max out all your core attributes, and then its accuracy is on the low side, but stability is pretty good, and then its reload time is about, a couple milliseconds off. Damage drop off is still relatively the same again for the SMG, but it is a different breed of SMG. It's in its own little category, like I said, and you can use it very effectively. I use it a lot, actually. I've been using it a lot, actually, because once I started noticing how both these SMGs, the 1928 and the Tommy gun, were used and how effective they could be at a close range, it kind of changes the game a little. So I mean, those are the SMGs I recommend you try and grind for, that you try and use in the game. These aren't the best in slot. These aren't the exotics. These are just high-end SMGs that I feel are, like, outperform or give a different playstyle, if you will, for your builds and for how you run the game. So if you're an up close and personal, aggressive type person that likes to be in the enemy's face in the Division 2, then I recommend you try using an SMG. You won't be sorry. Their high rate of fire and then their damage are pretty good with each other. They are also effective in PvP as well, since you are going up against other players. But again, these are the high-end variants. These are not the exotics. The exotics are a different breed. And if you want me to go over those exotics, the exotic SMGs, then definitely let me know in the comment section below. And again, guys, I hope you found this video informational. And if you did, please leave a like and share this video amongst your friends, family, whoever. And let me know in the comment section below, what is your favorite SMG to use with your build? Do you have a favorite SMG? And if you have any questions about which SMG that you should go for, or if you have any questions about how to use the SMG in general, definitely hit me up and let me know in the comment section below. And again, guys, thank you so much for stopping by, and I will catch you around in the next video. Take care.